So
Yeah.
you mentioned that. So I'm going to jump back through your story. I think it's
Sure.
what we're going to do for like half this episode. Um, you mentioned
Sorry if
struggling.
I'm all over the place.
No, totally fine. I like these episodes. These are good ones where I don't have to talk
Yeah.
as much. Uh, so you mentioned struggling to get X set up, and I think
Hmm.
people now sort of take for granted, I guess, the simplicity not only of setting up X, but setting up everything with their system. And,
Hmm.
you can just install a package, and for the most part, it's probably going to be fine. If it's not fine, you're probably missing a package. And
Yeah.
even just using X itself, things like X render, for example, those
Hmm.
didn't exist yet. So if you wanted, my understanding is you wanted to reconfigure your monitor layout, you had to restart the X server.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was so so back then X so you had the driver for the graphics device,
Mm, mm.
which was early on we actually had different executable X servers for different types of graphics adapters. Like you had the
Ah,
one
lovely.
for ATI, you had the one for Matrox, you had, and of course there was a generic one. So,
Mm-hmm.
but all those eventually got separated out into drivers that were then
Mm-hmm.
loaded by, the X server. But the sort of one of the rites of passage, so to speak, was getting X working and configuring your display, which everyone had. So I described how I would go and buy these parts. They're generic, no brand or anything like that. That's where my monitor came from as well. X did not know about that monitor. It didn't
Mm.
really know about anything except maybe like a dozen monitors that no one had anyway. So you had to write mode lines in your XF86 config file, and you know the X server will do what you tell it to do. So you would write a mode line, and you had to get the refresh rate, and you had to calculate all of this stuff for your monitor using the information from the manufacturer, and that might not be correct. You may have
Mm-hmm.
gotten a manual with the monitor, but it could have been the wrong one. So you would put all this info in, and then fire it up. I hope you got it right, but some unfortunate people would smoke their monitor. it
I
would it
was
would
about to
actually
mention, my understanding is you could pop some bad monitors.
Yeah, and that would certainly turn people off from uh using Linux, because now they've been told to try this, and now it has damaged their hardware beyond repair.
Mhm.
But it was tough, and it was just one of those things that you had to learn about. Now, on a PC, you would take an operating system like Windows. Part of what Microsoft would do for that product is they would just have a database of pretty much every manufacturer in existence and have a way to automatically figure that out
Mm-hmm.
based on detecting it. And there were no at that point in time there were no real standards for getting that info, but so they would research it and they would build that into the OS. So that was where that sort of ease of use thing argument would come in, where it's like, well, Linux is hard to use because I have to give it all this info. It's like, well, yeah, right now it is, because we don't have all that info. But we got to a better place within Linux, certainly with kernel mode setting for the display, and then the X server being able to uh, you know just directly use that. And of course, Wayland has improved things even further for modern displays, because we don't really have. X was from a time period where we had CRTs. We didn't have LCD displays, and now you've got the ultra high def and all kinds of other displays that X wasn't really built for. Wayland is taking into account, well, maybe displays won't always look like this. Maybe, we should build in a way to improve that, and I think they've done that. I actually I do still use X, and that's not because I'm anti Wayland. It's because I haven't. I still use software that does not work in Wayland, even through the X layer,
Mm.
and I know it will eventually, but I just don't care. I'm going to use whichever one is the path of least resistance for the software that I use, and that's why I still have X as my graphical setup.
What software do you have that's causing issues?
It's some maritime software that I use. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's the problem. Is like it's just really very specific,
Right.
low number of users, and not a lot of those users are developers. So it's one of those things where I fear that if I ever want to have that work on Wayland, I'm going to be the one that makes it work on Wayland. But so a lot of these specific programs for X that are very, maybe industry specific, relied on stuff that was in X that now in Wayland is sort of a different paradigm. So things like getting input devices, window management, things like that. Just the whole paradigm's different in Wayland. So that's one of the limiting factors right now. So it's not just a matter of changing your include lines and recompiling against Wayland. You have to kind of re-architect your software around a new environment. You could probably think about it as like I have this program on Mac OS or Windows, and I want it on X, and that's not a simple change. That's a new UI basically. But
What desktop do you happen to be using right now?
the one I have been rocking for a few years now is XFCE.
Okay.
So shout out to XFCE. I've tried a lot of the other modern ones. I tend to do that maybe once a quarter. Oh, I should clarify, if anyone from XFCE is listening, please don't take that to say yours is not modern. I know it's modern. I keep it updated. But I really like the XFCE sort of simplicity paradigm and the panel at the bottom, and just it does what I want. It stays out of the way.
Sure.
That's what I like. Before that I was using GNOME 2, which we had in Fedora.
Wait, so you've been on X? That was a while ago. That was
quite
a while ago.
It was a while ago, yeah. But with GNOME 3, the change to GNOME 3, it wasn't, in my mind, it wasn't really a simple upgrade. It was a total change of how you think about the environment, and I didn't really like that. I found it kind of jarring, and I felt I was less productive. So I was just like, I'm not really interested in this. I'll move along. But we have plenty of environments out there, and they all do very different things, and you can customize them the way you want. But yeah, I guess I have been on XFCE for a while.
Yeah, just a little bit, just like two GTK versions.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.